Hey everyone, it's Aviation Buff. It's been a few weeks since I did a video. Today we're going to be talking about a day, April 18th, 1952, and a mysterious event happened on that day. Not many people know about it. There's nothing on the internet about it. I've talked to asked historians about it, and no one seems to know much about it. But before we get to that story, please support my merch store at warbirdbunker.com. We have t-shirts, airplane posters, models, coffee mugs. Shopping at Warbird Bunker helps keep aviation history alive. And also, please check out my friend's YouTube channel at HR Funk YouTube. He has an educational firearms video. HR Funk is a Marine and law enforcement veteran, and he has a great YouTube channel. So links for both of those are in the description below. I really appreciate you if you check those out. Thank you. Some mysterious things happened on April 18th, 1952. And I couldn't find anything on the internet about it. I've asked several historians. I asked a couple Air Force pilots and whatnot. No one knows much about this event. But it happened during the Cold War. Air Defense Command had made a full alert on this day due to some unknown aircraft popping up on radar and some sightings that were seen. It's very mysterious because nothing has really been talked about this event. The only place I can find it is actually in one of my favorite books right here. It's called The Emergent Shield. You can see it. It's called The Emergent Shield by Kenneth Schaffel. This is my go-to. This is like the Holy Bible for me for Air Defense Command history. It's got a lot of information in this book. And if you don't have a copy of this book, I highly suggest you get a copy. I love this book. It's got a lot of Air Defense Command information in there from the Cold War. And this video is about the Cold War basically, and an incident happened on April 18th, 1952. It's actually in this book. I couldn't find anything else about it other than what was described in this book. And before I get any further, what is ADC, Air Defense Command? Well, Air Defense Command during the Cold War was the Air Force's command, and their job was to protect the continental United States from enemy air attack. They were in command. They were in charge of interceptor aircraft. They were in charge of like the radar networks throughout the country, Grand Observer Corps. ADC was a very important part of the Cold War in the U.S. They protected the U.S. They came up with different things to help protect the U.S. And in its infancy, the ADC was trying to perfect a good system to protect the U.S. continental from enemy air attack, but nothing really worked perfectly. There was cracks in the system, and probably one of the biggest issue was communications. You got to think this was in the early 50s. Technology really wasn't there yet, and everything was, technology was still primitive, and of course this caused a lot of roadblocks. But this event basically involved some mysterious vapor trails being spotted over Nunavak, occurred with basically two different locations of unknown aircraft being reported coming in towards the United States. And instead of me describing it in detail out of my head, I'm actually going to read what's in this book about this event. And again, what I'm going to read now is from this book, so I hope the author doesn't mind me sharing a little chapter. But basically, it was a full alert that was called, and it was next to the real thing as he described it in this book of an enemy air attack. And the book doesn't finish what actually happened with that event, but it does describe what happened and what led to the event. I'm going to read it. It's about like 2 pages, so bear with me if you don't mind me reading you a little piece out of this book. next to the real thing. On April 16, 1952, Colonel Woodbury M. Burgess, General Chidlaw's intelligence chief, received a troublesome piece of information from USAF headquarters. The information, categorized as an indication, implied they came from a clandestine source and concerned Soviet military movements. Burgess and his intelligence staff remained in the ADC Combat Operations Center. By late in the evening, they had received no further information to confirm the warning, so Burgess decided they would go home. Meanwhile, he informed Major General Kenneth P. Burquest, ADC Operations Deputy of the Special Intelligence, and Burquest and Burgess decided there was no reason at the time to inform either General Smith or ADC Vice Commander Chidlaw of the incident. But shortly after midnight, the Western Air Defense Force Operations Center at Hamilton Air Force Base, California, notified Colorado Springs of 4 vapor trails sighted 1 hour and 27 minutes earlier over Nunivak Island in the Bering Sea, which is over Alaska. The vapor trails were noted heading east by southeast. The information originated at the Elmendorf Air Force Base, Alaska Center, and was transmitted through McChord Air Force Base in Washington, which provided the only link between the two systems. A captain on duty in the intelligence section at Inked Air Force Base received the news and promptly phoned Colonel Burgess, who hurriedly returned to the Combat Operations Center. Once there, he directed that the Royal Canadian Air Force be informed of the sighting. He also notified General Burquest, who rushed back to the center. By 02:20, Burquest had alerted his counterparts in the Eastern, Central, and Western Air Defense Forces, and the various direction centers had been instructed to direct northern and coastal radar stations to be especially vigilant. Burquest also attempted to confirm the sighting with the Alaskan Center, but before the call could be completed, the line between McChord and Elmendorf Air Force Base went dead, leaving all involved simply exasperated. Burquest now phoned General Smith saying, "We have something hot here, and I think you better come over right now." When Smith arrived in the operations center, he and Burquest considered calling an air defense readiness alert. This procedure, formulated and instituted by Whitehead, allowed Air Defense Command to bring individual sectors or the whole command onto full combat readiness. Smith and Burquest had a difficult decision because calling an alert would mean awakening hundreds of Air Defense Command and other Air Force personnel and ordering them to duty stations with no time for explanations. The result of such an order was uncertain since the procedure had never been tested. No sooner had Burquest and Smith begun considering what to do than the decision was, in effect, made for them. Because at 03:10, the intelligence duty officer came running to Smith with the word that Eastern Air Defense Force had just called in and reported 5 unknown aircraft coming in over Maine. 1 minute later, Smith ordered Air Defense Command on full air defense readiness alert. At the same time, notification went out to the Air Defense Region Commanders, to General Curtis LeMay of Strategic Air Command, and to the USAF command post in the Pentagon over hotlines, specially installed for such emergency situations. At this time, Smith also notified Chidlaw, who, like air defense personnel all over the country, quickly reported for duty. Meanwhile, commanders of Tactical Air Command, Air Research and Development Command, Air Proving Ground, and Air Training Command, all pledged to commit radar and fighter units in an emergency, were contacted by commercial toll calls. The Army Anti-Aircraft Artillery Command did not receive the alert till 03:41. Then General Irvin's staff ordered all units on site to man their guns and other units to prepare to move. Within 15 minutes from the time the alert was called, region and division air defense centers have begun operating with full teams. Also, within 15 minutes, telephone and teletype lines throughout the aircraft control and warning network were operating, an accomplishment Chidlaw called a miracle of dead of night efficiency. On fighter bases, the number of aircraft in immediate readiness increased from 88 to 240 aircraft within an hour. But Chidlaw canceled the operation at 05:50. Communications had not been reestablished with Emmendorf, nor had the mysterious contrails over Nunavak been identified. In the east, sightings were narrowed down to 3 unknowns, which interceptors identified as friendly. These were French, British, and Pan American airliners that had drifted from their scheduled courses on flight plans other than those reported to the main radar site. No one blamed the pilots. They had reported their changes in flight to Canadian flight monitor stations. Communications between the stations and Air Defense Command's main radar site had failed, and the course changes were not identified in the Eastern Air Defense Force's identification logs. No sooner had Chidlaw canceled the alert than the Pentagon called the Operations Center. Air Staff officers believed the Air Defense Command had panicked and taken more drastic measures than the situation required. But Chidlaw, however, refused to call and told Berquist, "Tell him if the situation occurs again, I'll do the same thing." And Chidlaw went off to bed. And that's all really this book describes of that event. Now, what happened? What were the so the 5 unknown aircraft over Maine were narrowed down as 3 civilian airliners drifting off a course. But what were those vapor trails over Nunavak Island, over Alaska, heading east to southeast? So that's not good. Were they Russian Tu-4 bombers trying to poke the U.S.? Was Russia trying to poke our defenses, see what we would do? What were they? This book doesn't finish clarifying what the vapor trails were, and it kind of stated in the book that the vapor trails are still unknown. So what were they? What was that? Was it an attack? Was it just Russia trying to poke us? What was it? That's a mysterious thing. Mysterious events like this is interesting, right? And it's always really interesting when a full alert is called, right? It kind of harkens back to the Pearl Harbor day, Pearl Harbor attack. This is no drill, full alert. I find this event very interesting because a full alert during the Cold War can be scary, and what happened, what's going on, what are these mysterious sightings? Why did communications between McChord Air Force Base and Elmendorf go dead just when they needed that communication the most? Was that an add-on to the attack? Was communications being cut because an attack was present? A lot of weirdness happened, I think, at this event. And if you think this was mysterious and weird, a couple weeks later, something really more weird and mysterious would happen, and it would, in the newspapers, would be considered the attack in Washington, D.C. I'm going to cover that story next. Some really strange things happened in Washington, D.C., which called Air Defense Command to do another intercept of unknown aircraft over Washington, D.C. Airports, and even an attack on an American airliner. What was going on in that event? So that's going to be in the next video. And if you think this event was weird, the next one's going to be even weirder. But again, I think Air Defense Command did the right thing in calling a full alert, because you never know. Back then during the Cold War, Russia could attack us at any moment. And right there, it seemed like the recipe for an attack. Vapor trails coming down from Alaska, unknown aircraft spotted over Maine, and then communications started to be cut off. That sounds like something bad's going on. That would alert me if you ask me. So I think Air Defense Command did the right thing in calling a full alert. Better to be safe than sorry, right? Anyway, I hope you guys all liked this video. Again, this is one of an event that I've always had a big fascination, because there's some mysterious things about it. Everything kind of seemed like there was an attack happening, and what happened, and what was going on during that attack. I just find it very fascinating. I'm really big into Cold War history, so and I love Cold War airplanes, of course. So what was going on April 16th, 1952? Did you hear about this event? Because if you did, please leave a comment and let us know. I can't find anything on it. I don't know if it's still top secret in the government files or what, but this could have been a serious event, and it seems like it was definitely worthy of being concerned by Air Defense Command Operations Center personnel and officers in charge. I think they did the right thing again. Can't be too careful when during the Cold War. You know, you never know when there was an attack going to happen. So I definitely think Air Defense Command did a good job with that. And anyway, leave a comment, talk about airplanes in history. If you got anything on this event, please share with us in the comments. Again, please support warbirdbunker.com. Shop there, help save aviation history. Got cool shirts, stickers, model kits, posters, coffee mugs, and whatnot. And also, again, support my friend's YouTube channel, HR Funk. All those links are in the description. Keep them flying. See you until next time. Bye.